loyal fans and friends. On this show, I am Joe Bob. Joining me is Mr. Willie
Hello.
and also Biblio Warden.
Hello.
How are the two of you doing?
Fantastic.
Fantastic, huh?
Fantastic.
I'm well enough.
I love the energy, guys.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I
Well,
want the
this
low
week-
point of this show to be right now. I want it to be all rise.
All
Okay.
rise.
It is courtroom week.
That's true.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we watched 4 episodes of Star Trek this week. We're rolling right along on season 2 of Strange New Worlds and season 3 of Star Trek Picard. And we watched the second episode, right? That's all. We're third.
That is correct.
Second. Sorry. Strange New
That's all I
Worlds.
watched.
I'm sorry, what?
I said that's all I watched.
That being Ad Astra per Aspera. And
For Aspera? Yeah,
it depends on who's pronouncing it.
granted.
And disengage. Then we also
You see what they did there? Sorry.
really was
had to.
sad it wasn't decouple.
No, but we got to meet who she decoupled with.
What? Okay. Oh, Rafi. Yeah, she's a piece of shit. Anyway.
Don't bury the lead on that one, Joe Bob. Oh boy.
Oh my God. We also watched
Here
some
we
classic
go.
Star Trek, that being TNG. Warden decided, I don't know how Warden knew a courtroom case was coming up. He looked into his crystal ball, but he decided we would also watch The Measure of a Man, the second season classic from TNG. And then I just picked a DS9 episode I kind of liked, which was Rocks and Shoals.
I mean, I told you last week that, I had seen enough of the trailer for this week's episode that it's obvious that they were what their theme was going to be. So that's all it was. It wasn't nefarious.
The viewers will strike that from the testimony and disregard everything Warden just said. It's black magic fuckery, and I'm standing by it.
Well,
So,
our people. What can I
so
say?
this week, similar to what happened a couple weeks ago. So we're sitting there, and I'm watching Measure of a Man, and my wife is like, "He looks familiar. What do I know him from?" She's like, "He's the only one I recognize in this show." I'm like, "That's Picard." She's like, "Wait, I thought you were watching the new one." I was like, "Well, I mean, new-ish, 1989." She's like, "That's the same guy." She's like, "He looks so much different." I'm like, "Well, it was 34 years ago. Like, cut him some slack."
I look different than I did 34 years ago.
But I mean, bless her heart. It's like an season 1 of Witcher in my house right now, because I just keep jumping from season to season. Series to series. Like, she can't keep up with what's actually going on.
That is
You're giving her
entirely fair.
whiplash, Willie.
That is entirely fair.
Yeah, it is.
Willie, you should just gaslight her. You should be like, "No, this was made last year. I mean, it's pandemic, so it's a little bit older, but."
But anyway,
He got COVID. It was bad.
that was really rough on his body. The golem is breaking down.
Goblins can't get COVID unless they get vaccines, because that shit just gives it to you.
Yes, it does.
Vaccines are a Section 31 plot. Anyway, so should
America.
we start with Star Trek Picard?
Very well.
Usually where we start. Season 3, episode 2.
Hit it, because I think we all
Oh,
dinged a few times in this episode, didn't we?
boy. I
Tell
Well,
Bob, take us in.
you guys were right. They did not stop going to the nostalgia well. I really thought that they were gonna veer off, take that
No.
exit ramp and just do their own thing. No, they tickled it a few more times, right? So
They did.
let's see.
Oh, they tickled, yes, and I think it's going to only grow.
Tickled
But anyway,
twice as much with Worf.
can I just say, whatever problems you guys might have had, just the very fact that if Worf was on the show again in Star Trek again made me ridiculously happy.
We'll get there. That's the big reveal at the end. I just made the Klingon double penis joke because it's perfunctory at this point.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
exactly. He should really be dual wielding his katanas. Just thematically, it just makes more sense.
To be fair, I mean, I was actually expecting it to be Elrod, and so when it wasn't, it was such a pleasant surprise. But
didn't he have at least? I thought he had at least two bladed weapons on him. Didn't he have his batleth and
I thought he just had the
short
funny
knife thingy?
I thought he just had the
Okay.
short knife thing, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that I'm misremembering as well. So,
Well, they were intentionally obscuring it from you because they wanted you to think it might be Elnor as long as possible. Anyway, we start out 2 weeks ago on board the Helios. So we get to see our new character, and he introduces himself right away. His name is Jack Crusher. Shocking. No one, I think.
Yeah.
And we get to see him do his thing. The Fenris Rangers show up because we've heard of them before, and he plays cheeky with him, and then bribes him. They are styling him to be the thief with the heart of gold, the charming rogue. Which is, not a character we've ever seen before in sci-fi. So that was very refreshing. I'll be honest. I'm kind of digging it so far.
Yeah. No,
I'm enjoying this character.
This is jumping ahead a little bit, but when he's describing himself later in the episode, I'm like, wait, are you his kid or are you Riker's kid? Because this.
That would be the best fucking plot twist ever. If we get to the end of the show and Beverly's like, there's something I got to tell you. And Riker's like, I was drunk.
And actually, Hellfire or whatever was the code word she named. That was what Riker called his penis.
That's how he knew. He's like, oh, we created that when you weren't around.
Yeah.
Whenever you were incapacitated.
You were locutus at the time. It was a weird time for Beverly, and
that's going to be why Deanna and his daughter won't talk to him, because she just found out that even though they were married at the time, he's got another kid. Deanna was in on it. They're swingers, so who gives a shit? Anyway, he makes some funnies about how, having a plague which is immunoresistant to bureaucracy. Romulan ale cures everything. Great disinfectant. And for life in general. He's pretty good. And the bribe works, or so we're thought, but then they end it by saying, reach out to the marked woman. We found him. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And
dear.
Oh, dear. But they're establishing that he is, at heart, trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't have a big, he doesn't care about the rules. So we're back then where we left off last system with the big unknown, the grappling hook has come through with the claw. Anyway, that's what I think when I see this thing. And those fucking aliens in Toy Story looking up at it, coming down at them.
Nice.
They're running out of options. Picard starts setting up some transport inhibitors because he's actually doing smart things apparently this season. And they want to get Beverly off on a shuttlecraft. But then the ship shoots them and they're like, oh, well, shit.
No more shuttlecraft.
No more shuttlecraft. We're stuck. They
Too
send
bad
2
they didn't cloak
guys and
it and
Riker
stick it to
blows
the
them up.
hull.
Yeah. And apparently Jack has time to run in and say, incoming! After the shuttle blow. Whatever. Laws of space and time are more
Flimsy.
like guidelines. And Riker blows up 2 of them and then says, well, hopefully now they've realized they're just sending men to their death. I'm like, they could just send like 4 or 5 next time. It'd probably work out, but okay. And then they try to beam Crusher off the ship. So now they know they want him alive. And meanwhile, watching this from afar is the Titan. And Shaw, even though he's fired 7 like 4 times, she's still right there beside him. She wants to lay in a course. He's like, belay that. I told you Shaw, I didn't think Shaw was going to be just a total 100% dickhead. And
Well, he still is. He just may have been one who stepped aside later in the episode and kind of let.
I said he would end up sort of helping them. It's what he's doing. I mean, I think he has mental problems. I think he needs the structure and everything because of what's her name? I don't remember the chick's Honey Bunny in Pulp Fiction. Our bad
What
guy.
are you talking about? Oh,
Our antagonist.
oh yeah, boy, she was a fun character.
She made some statement about like his mental status. I think that he's got issues. Anyway, he's like, I'm not throwing away 500 lives for 2 dusty old farts. And she's like, but you can be the hero who saved heroes.
Mm-hmm. This is an exploration ship.
And
I
he's
didn't
like, get the
realize
fuck
that,
out.
but whatever.
He's like, get the fuck out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Willie, were you satisfied by just the overabundance of tractor beam porn in this one?
I loved it. I didn't realize that you could break a tractor beam like that. I mean, what? Like, like it was a chain you snapped or something. But anyway, I loved it. I loved it.
I don't give a shit, Willie.
Suspending disbelief.
Cool.
It was badass.
I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy the moment, but I mean, why do we even put tractor beams on ships? They never work when we need them to, unless you're flinging another ship at somebody. What?
That wasn't
also
even
it was a
stupid and cool.
force throw. Yeah. All hands abandon ship. All hands abandon ship. That's
Honey
what I
Bunny
remember
was
when I
like-
thought about it. That was some nostalgia porn for you with cause and effect in cold open. So
No, Honey Bunny was like, again. That was great. Anyway,
the sheer mechanics of what that would have taken are mind-boggling. You know, I mean, these tractor, I can kind of buy that. Like, hey, you know what? Let's not beat it up. It's still by far better than anything Picard has thrown at us so far. So let's not pull at that thread. It was fantastic.
I thought it was fine. I didn't mind it at all. Anyway,
I do not have any major complaints with what has been happening thus far in Picard. And by thus far, I mean literally at this point in your recap. So
right. I was really enjoying this whole part of the episode. So of course they have to fucking cut it to Rafi, who's sitting in her ship, and she's like blaming herself for being a piece of shit. And I'm like, you are a piece of shit, Rafi. And you probably should. Maybe if you weren't a drug-addled loser, you would have figured it out better. But anyway, she wants to talk to our handler, and it's hard for me to not. It's funnier to me when you read what the handler says in worse voice now.
I told
Disengage.
you to disengage.
Yeah. There are 116 people dead. There will be 117 if you do not shut the fuck up. Oh, but she's like, no, I'm going to go find out myself. And so she goes bebopping off, and we'll catch up with her later. We kept cutting out to her. It's like, hey, Rafi, I want to forget about her. And she's a piece of shit, so she decides to go and find her ex-husband, who also apparently was a piece of shit, but he stopped being a piece of shit because he had a kid. And Rafi's like, fuck that.
I'm a career
committing
woman.
to this. Exactly. I'm a platinum member of the piece of shit club. Oh, I will say, though, he was still a dick to her. He's like,
Yeah.
I thought you were coming here to like get me to try to manipulate our son for you. Imagine how disappointed I am. I'm like, well, that really does fit with her character, but I think this is actually an improvement.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because they're blaming.
Yeah.
Look, these two deserve each other.
Oh my, yes.
How were there only 116 people in the football stadium-sized building during the event
There was a pandemic.
that they portal
Everybody's working
jumped
from
down?
home.
Yeah, it's, monumental architecture. It's bigger than it needs to be. I don't know.
Automation took our jobs.
Yeah, I must have.
So she's there. She's seeing JJ for a favor. She wants to see Sneed because she don't believe that. Whatever. Tuco?
Yeah, Tuco.
Is
Might
that
as
his
well
name?
be. Who cares? It doesn't, not gonna work here anyway.
Is that a good, bad, and the ugly reference?
Well, Tuco was. So
His name was something like that. It may not have been.
Latuca or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Toluca? Maybe was it Toluca?
I'm
Anyway,
gonna
who
call him
cares? It doesn't
Tuco.
matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because he's dead already.
Because this show loves, because new Star Trek loves decapitating people.
Yes, it does.
It does.
That was
Yes.
another thing they were trying to convince you. It was Elnor.
Have you noticed how clean decapitated heads are in Star Trek?
I mean, yeah. There is that.
We've only seen a few, but yeah. I mean, I assumed that Sneed had polished that one up and drained it of blood, preserved it in carbonite something. I don't fucking know.
Oh man.
Anyway,
Again,
Ferengi psychopaths do with heads. I don't know.
did you notice when it listed his profile, his accomplices were Morn, Quark, and Brunt, and some among others.
I
did
did
not.
not
Like,
see
damn.
that.
I did not.
Frankie makeup looked it had gotten an update, but that was fine.
Yeah, but at least it wasn't.
actually
It wasn't
enjoyed
32nd century update.
No, God no, thank you. But I enjoyed that character. He chewed the scenery well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we don't get the full resolution with him till the very end. We're sticking back with the we've got the Titan, sorry, has come in, has broken the lock on the tractor beam, and it beamed all three of our boys over and Beverly directly to sick bay. And Captain Shaw's just not happy. And we get to see our baddie for the first time. And she is chewing the scenery hard, but they didn't give her a mustache to twirl, but they should have, my guy.
She was quite villainous. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's over the top, but it was kind of in a fun way.
well,
you know?
it wasn't. Well, yeah, I mean, she was enjoying it. It wasn't just her being over the top, though. It was like, I've got 5,000 photon torpedoes, 487 quantum torpedoes, and all that. It was just, it's like at some point this was just getting pedantic. Like, I think you've made your point,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
don't have to
When she
keep
was like,
doing this.
she was like, just so you know, I'm not fucking around. I'll drop my pants and you can scan me, see what I got for you.
Yeah. Where was Martok when you need him? It's a trick, an illusion created by photon fields and whatever the fuck else he said.
Duranium shadows.
Yeah, something like that.
That was Gowron.
I thought Martok said that, though. Anyway, who cares? Good shit. It's no illusion.
You're a toothless old Krishna cat trying to frighten us with your roar. That was Gowron.
That was Gowron.
and well done. But
Oh, I strained my eyes doing it, though. Y'all didn't see that part.
No, we did not.
probably for the best.
Anyway. So let's see. She transmits over Jack Crusher's criminal record, right? Or at least she tells him that he's wanted.
It's a fucking Captain Jack Sparrow sized rap sheet.
Yes.
This
But
is
you have heard of me.
Of Captain Jack Crusher. That would be fucking awesome.
It'll never happen.
He has a little bit of a Captain Jack way about him when he's
He does.
bribing the guards, you know.
When he was busting out of jail.
I'm sorry.
That's fair.
What level force field is this? I believe you have to tell me.
Yeah, what the hell kind of rule is that?
He's waiting for the opportune moment, Willie.
Pardon me, Warden. Pardon me, Warden, but are these bars made of 304 stainless steel or 316? You have to tell me. It is in the penal codes. Like, what the hell? Like, whatever. Fuck it.
Yeah, it's safe to say after this week that the Federation has some interesting legal situations. So
they do.
This is true.
It's more convoluted than Alabama's Constitution. This is what it sounds like, but we got some real doozies in there.
Nothing is more convoluted than Alabama's Constitution except for season 2 of Star Trek Picard.
That's true. That's fair.
Oh, I love the whole episode, how Riker keeps looking at Picard. He's like, something familiar about him, huh? Huh?
You can't tell me you can't do the math, Picard.
Yeah, he's like, anything you want to tell me there, JLP? Been slinging that JLPD around? Picard's like, shut it, Will.
gosh.
He's like, God damn it, are you just really?
Are you this stupid or you think I'm this dumb?
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Anyway.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. We all know that Riker, he wouldn't have done that. He would have looked at JLP and he would have been like, pound it. Like, he'd be like, nice. That's all he would have said. There would have been no holding accountability at that point. He just would have been like, hey, you hit that. Tell me, does the rug match the drapes? Or carpet match the drapes?
I guess Picard was not.
Is it true that doctors have all the best drugs?
We might have had to for Picard.
I wonder how many times I made a joke like, "Hey, did you crush her?"
Oh man.
Anyway, I guess Picard was not taking his birth control drugs. I mean, good for him. Put him up there with fucking De Niro and Pacino because he was like 70 when he conceived, apparently.
Really? Well, yeah, would have been, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's close to 80 at this point. I mean, he might have been late 60s, but
Yeah, it's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Apparently.
do
Unless
the
you
math,
turkey
Mr.
basted
Willie.
him. I've done the math, sir.
I thought you were gonna say I've done the turkey basting. I'm like, look,
And no, the
4
math.
kids in, you've done it every which way.
Except protected.
94. He's 94. So yeah, he would have been 74. Went.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Something to aspire to. Anyway.
Or not. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
that is
yeah,
not something
fair.
I'm aspiring to.
Oh,
guess
but
child
at least
support-
being active at that point is
Well, that
definitely...
also makes you wonder how old Crusher had to have been, right?
this
mean,
is true.
She is younger, I think, by a little bit.
Yeah, but this ain't Abraham and Sarah, Warden. Like,
That's fair.
I mean, maybe medicine is advanced pretty far at that point in time, but I mean, unless she's like 30 years his junior, which I don't think she was 14 on the Enterprise as chief medical doctor, but
No.
maybe she was.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
where were we?
In space, no one can hear your menopause.
Maybe it's
I know
slowed
what
down.
Jesus.
Maybe gravity is what causes menopause.
Well, it keeps the eggs up there longer.
That's right.
If you want to get nerdy and go back into the canon, you could potentially say that the planet in Insurrection that firmed up her boobs regenerated her eggs and uterus.
I mean, that's probably the most coherent explanation that we're going to get. So
Because it was
I
only
can
like
roll
it
with it.
only would have been a couple years after that he knocked her up, if that. I don't know what
it's
the
like-
time jump between Nemesis and Insurrection was, but
It's like the opposite of Ponfar. All the women on that planet got their period at the exact same time.
oh my
All the-
god.
Wow.
That'd be rough.
And the next day the heads of all men were on pikes.
That's what it would have been. Yeah.
Look, we're not here to talk about Angel 1. And may we never actually
Yeah, I
talk
was
at
gonna
that.
say
at
that's
length
not what I
that
want to.
damn
I was like
episode.
vaguely remember that. But
Oh my god, it's terrible.
anyway,
Season
Picard.
1.
So Picard looks at Jack Crusher / Julio Crucher / Johnny Carson / Jimbo
Fisher.
Crush
Yeah.
Daddy, whatever the
Right.
fuck. He's got like 18 aliases that are all JC.
That are all JC except Jesus Christ. He didn't have that one that I'm
No,
aware
he
of.
changed it to Iesus Christos for that. Anyway, Picard's like, well, we can't just hand him over. And Riker says something like, that ship is a guillotine. I'm like, no, it's a fucking grabber claw. Riker, you hadn't looked at it closely enough. And
Nice.
for some reason, she's giving him an hour. I don't know why. And Liam's like, yeah, you got 30 minutes. Go. So he's talking to him. He asks him who his daddy is. He's like, I have no father. It's like, that hurts me, son. And then he walks. He lets him know that he's putting everybody at risk. So old Jackie boy breaks out because the brig officer is a complete fucking moron. And Shaw locks everybody down, and Seven manages to be the one that tracks him down. And he's like, you may have just earned your post back. I'm like, dude, you are the fucking wishy-washy son of a bitch. Because he had fired her again. I don't remember why. But anyway, they catch him, and he was actually beaming off the ship. He was going to turn himself in to save everybody. And Shaw's like, you know what? Let him go. That's fine. And right about that point, Riker has brought Beverly to the bridge. And they share. She sees Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc sees her. And they exchange glances. Oh, it's like, Belay that. Admiral's orders. What? Why do you care about this kid? Because he's my son. And Liam said the
That
same
all
thing.
says the same thing I thought.
He goes,
Fuck.
"Oh God, damn it!"
Yeah. Well, the
Yes.
show is yours.
My family did not know what was
the
going
bridge.
on. All they
the
knew
bridge
was
is yours.
I was applauding in the living room. An episode of Star Trek. Daughter was like, "Is it that good?" I'm like, "No, it's terrible."
No.
But he said exactly what I was thinking. I love that line.
Yeah,
God and with subtitles, it even made it better because it popped up right before he said it, and I was like, it was like my brain beamed it right up to the subtitles.
What did he say exactly? I don't even remember.
I think he said, "Oh God damn it."
Yeah, that is what it was. Oh boy.
And he said it because he's like, "Well, I guess we're doing this." He's like, "I can't hand over Picard's son."
In an homage to season 1, he just shakes his head and goes, "The sheer fucking," and that's just it.
And at that point, he just steps aside. He's like, "All
He
right, well, you
does,
know
yeah.
what? It is on you from here on out, big boy." It's Picard programs in
So please take
a
command
macro.
of this ship, which you've never piloted before, never commanded, and fly it straight.
Pretty
That
much,
was his
yeah.
grand escape plan.
And so the lady says, "But before you hand him over, I want you to know what the name of my ship is." It's the something fucking stupid. I don't
The Dick
remember.
Hammer.
Yeah. And he's like, "My answer is engage."
Yeah.
And away we go into the clouds. And she starts cackling like a fucking
Just-
witch on Halloween.
Yeah. That's it? That's your plan? You just flew slightly left. Yeah, no, man, it's gonna work.
I like how there was no way they could turn to run, but we can just go past her at full impulse.
That's right.
Whatever. And Picard's like, "If they want to fight," and
They'll
Shaw
have
jumps
to
in.
find me first.
Find us first.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
This should be interesting. Star Trek's never done We Fight in the Nebula before.
It's not even a different ship at this point either. It's the damn Enterprise A. It's the Enterprise going into the Nebula. We're really going to that well.
Now entering the Mutara Nebula.
Yeah.
And then we're back to Rafi as she fucking blows it because she's talking to Shaw. She's like, "I work for Tuco." He's like, "You work for Tuco?" Like, "You smell like a sting. A little bit of Starfleet, maybe a Section 31. I'm gonna," but not before he gives her some drugs, which she takes happily.
Mm-hmm.
She's a fucking dopehead and a piece of shit. And she starts passing out, and he says, "They're gonna take your head." But then, oh nope, the mysterious handler comes in, does some beheading, and I really didn't think we would know who the handler was. I thought it would be a completely new character. I guess I was wrong. And Worf picks her up and says, "I told you to disengage."
Right, because if there's anything I know about Worf's canon, it screams Starfleet intelligence.
Well,
That was the
he
only
was a
thing that bothered
station
me a little
intelligence
bit.
officer in the Dominion War.
It's just, but subterfuge and spying was not his bag, baby. At least it didn't seem like it to me. But oh well.
He did some covert ops missions. Look, I can see Worf doing that. Especially if it's more like a Black Ops thing where he's leading like off the record infiltration missions, that kind of thing that Starfleet normally wouldn't do. I can see that.
Well, it doesn't matter at this point because he's doing it. So
He's doing
the
it.
reasoning doesn't matter. He's there. He's the handler.
He is there. And that's how we end it. And I got to say, hot damn. It was something. It was I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, I was on board with season 2 through 2 episodes though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm having fun with it so far. I mean, there's enough good. This is like when you go golfing and you hit 2 or 3 good shots, and even though you played a shitty round of golf, you're like, man, I hit 2 to 3 really good shots today, and I'm gonna come back and play next week. That's basically what Picard season 3 is right now. They're still hitting those 2 to 3 good shots, and I'm coming back. So
I would, you know what? I'm gonna say it's more than that. I thought that this episode was pretty fun, except for most of Rafi being in it. When Rafi's on screen, I am not having a good time, except when Worf's carrying her. But I
I did
I
not
like
like
this Jack
Rafi.
Crusher
Yeah.
character. Shaw, I suspected they were gonna make Shaw a complete dickhead in his first when we first meet him, and then slowly hopefully make him better as the series goes on, and I think that's what they're going to do. You know, I still love Frakes and Stewart together. I'm pretty happy with it, through 2 episodes.
I have to tell you though, you are definitely rubbing off on me. Because I used to be very like whatever on Rafi. I mean, she wasn't my favorite, but this episode, I was like, in what universe is this woman an effective intelligence operative? Who thought this was a good idea? In a business where it's like, generally speaking, despite what they show in the movies, sticking to the job and following orders is actually usually a very good idea. Yeah, sure, the person who has never demonstrated an ability to demonstrate any self-control at all, yeah, sure, put her out in the field. I mean, it's just,
Well, especially when you've got a handler that's your one lifeline, you don't really want to be telling them to fuck off.
yeah, yeah.
Like, you would think that would need to be like the one link in the chain of command that you're kind of on board with maintaining.
And generally speaking, the intelligence services of, well, anybody really who's trying to do a good job don't put agents in situations that they would be easily compromised in. So why are we having the former druggie underground and dealing with? I mean, I guess I understand she understands the milieu, but I mean,
Mhm.
seriously, there's no concern that she might
You don't stick a recovering addict undercover in the cartel.
no, you don't.
Look, maybe that's why they got Worf watching her so closely, because he obviously wasn't very far away.
He was literally watching her. He was like
Yeah, pretty much.
stationed 100 yards away, like texting back and forth with her.
I mean, I get the impression he wasn't far
He
off.
wasn't far. Yeah, no, I don't think he was either.
Excuse me. Or the moment that she said basically fuck off, he's like, well, shit, and booked it. One or the other. But I don't know that they'll ever explain exactly where he was. But at any rate,
Probably not.
Yeah, we're not worried about it.
Not the speed that they do things. Which, by the way, they are still like lightning plot. just boom, 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 one thing after the other. It's just that it's actually enjoyable this time.
Well, but again, to Joe Bob's point, that was how season 2 of Picard started out. It wasn't until we got to like episode 3 or 4 where we just ground to a halt, a complete halt, for 4 episodes or so. But I think it'll be better. I still think the
I
pacing's doing
will
better.
say though that like season 2 through 2 episodes, like, it already felt a little out of control. Like, this feels more like a roller coaster. Last season is more like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and the mine cart's like almost
Okay.
flying off, and it's like jumping the track at times. You're like, this is gonna go really, really bad at some point. I think.
And then
This-
then
And I
episode
don't
10 was Picard sticking his boots against the wheels to stop it before it crashed.
This can only end in tears. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
episode 10 is him looking at Short Round saying, "Hang on, lady, we go for a ride." And him just whacking the shit out of that bridge.
Oh boy. Well, here's my only thing.
Because hey, look, you knew season 2 couldn't spend the whole season in the damn fun mirror universe. You knew that was just a temporary bit, and they were gonna have to try to tie in. It had already brought in time travel, and I think at the end of episode 2, that may have been when they got to 2020 or learned that they were going to 2024. So like, I felt it going off the rails.
Yeah.
This has a
The only
chance.
thing I'm moderately concerned about is we're getting our characters awfully spread out. And that didn't go well. It didn't go well in the last couple seasons when they did that.
Are we?
Well, we got
we're
Raffi and Worf in one place,
Raffi and Worf in one place. You
but
got
everybody else is together.
well, but who is everybody else? Right? So there's 7, Picard and Riker. And Shaw, if you want to throw him in there.
Crusher and Jack and Beverly.
Crusher and Jack. I don't know, but I'm feeling like there's still going to be other character introductions as we go, and they're doing other things. That's what I mean.
I
But-
think it's all going to converge
Well,
Yeah, it may be that we pick them up
yeah,
along
it's all
the
going
way.
to converge, but like
into a just
Picard didn't.
orgy of nostalgia.
There you go. Season 1 and 2 didn't do a great job of the convergences, but anyway.
Look, this is the Avengers Endgame of Picard. I'm not saying that I'm not comparing the quality of the two, because obviously this will not be that kind of quality. But the way that Endgame kind of took a victory lap around the MCU and hit all your favorite beats, I think that's what season 3 of Picard is. I think they're gonna go and they're gonna tug every nostalgia dick they can along the way. We're gonna visit people and we're gonna visit places. People doing nostalgic people doing nostalgic things in nostalgic places is going to happen a lot this season.
Maybe that was at the end of season 2, like the strange emission that came out of subspace. Maybe that was just the nostalgia load that was about to blow from season 3.
Yeah,
It's more an erection in the fabric of subspace.
I don't think that they're just going to have throwaway cameos. I think that that they're going to bring people back, and I think they're going to have things to do. And I think this is going to, because they always talked about how Nemesis, it was the last one that I still have not seen. Nemesis was always like a letdown to like basically everybody on the TNG cast.
Yeah.
They all thought it was just like, this is seriously how this group of people is gonna go out. And I think Picard season 3 is gonna be their like, no, this is how we're gonna go out.
I agree, Warden. And it's a different showrunner than the first 2 seasons, right?
I think so. I do know that they filmed believe it or not, season 2 and 3 of Picard were filmed basically back to back.
Yeah.
Because it was pandemic and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know who's took this one over. I don't remember.
Well, so far, I feel like all the movies are skippable. Like First Contact is fun at times. but it's not that great. And it starts the trope of Picard being an action hero instead of figuring out anything with his brain, which I hated.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is like once this season's over, is to be like, okay, we can just go from all good things to this is our catch up episode 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just forget all that other stupid shit. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
board. This, like I said, I'm here for the ride, and it feels like a safer ride than last season.
Well,
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
I remember
In
being
particular.
optimistic last season about this point. I remain optimistic. I do think that it's they're taking a Star Wars Episode 7 recipe here, right? They're trying to stick with what's safe and what's familiar to the audience. And after seasons 1 and 2, I can appreciate that.
You're goddamn right.
So so I'm good with it. I mean, I'll be happy seeing Pete. Like, I mean, whoever they pull in, like I'm gonna be happy seeing all of them, unless it's Will Wheaton and whatever that bitch was, the Travelers or whoever. Like, let's not bring them in. But everybody else they can bring in. I guess you can't bring in Data. He's dead.
Is Beverly gonna have to die so Picard can fuck Laris with a clean conscience?
Right. We spent an entire season getting Picard to dip his wick in some Romulan tail. And as soon as he does, we've got a paternity suit on our hands. It just ruin it all.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually fight with you though, Willie, on Data can't come back. They're gonna find a way.
Well, they'll either. I mean, they might bring B4 back as Data, so that's one possibility. I mean, you got a whole Soong cult over there on a planet building AIs. There's no reason why they can't transfer some shit in there. At the very least, we'll meet another fucking Soong. There's no way Brent Spiner's on the bench for this season.
No.
Zero
Oh,
chance.
well.
What do you think, Warden? Do you think they would kill Beverly off? Or do you think that they would? I mean, because
No.
Picard's not gonna be like, fuck you, Laris. This is the love of my life.
No.
After we spent 2 seasons, like Willie said.
No, I
do you
think
think?
they're going. My hope is that they are going to be adults about this, and lots of people have exes. I know. I don't see that. And I think the whole freaking point of the second season is that Picard has to be, forgive himself and be human and whatever you want to call it. And Beverly having to die to clear the road for him with Laris is just kind of like almost a reversion to just like, let's let guilt run everything. So if I am giving them benefit of the doubt that this season is going to at least make halfway sense, then no, I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
I'm
that
not
they will.
giving them the benefit of the doubt on this. I guess that's the question: is would they let it end maturely, and all the fans be like, "But no, I wanted him to be with Beverly and not Laris." I don't know. I hope that they just. I hope she wishes him well in his future romantic endeavors, but we'll see. That's the one
We
little
shall
annoying
see.
thing in the back of my brain about this is I'm like, oh God,
Mhm.
please don't turn this into some sort of stupid resolution in the triangle between Picard, Beverly, and Laris.
Right. Yeah. Well, to be fair, they haven't actually established there is a triangle yet. there's no indication that there's anything deep between Beverly and Picard beyond a child at this point.
It would absolutely shock me if they don't go to that well with a
Yeah,
little
they
bit of
resist
tension.
that. Yeah. I mean, she bolted for 20 years after he knocked her up. There's going to be some unresolved issues there.
Oh, they're going to address that. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to end up with them like rekindling anything.
No, I'm not saying rekindling anything, but there will be dramatic tension between the two, and I think there'll be at least some element of not like full blown will they, won't they, but there'll be enough to make it a question of are they doing a will they, won't they.
Mm.
Anyway, that's just my guess. It's a bit wrong. I really didn't think they'd make it his kid. I thought that would be too fucking cliche and predictable.
I knew that it was exactly as cliche and predictable as it needed to be.
Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage.
Sounds
All
like
right.
Picard should have disengaged a little earlier. Not that I'm one to talk.
Beat me to it. Okay.
All right. I need about a 10
I love how
second.
Joe Bob just glides over that.
I need about a 10-second biology break. I'll be
Sounds
right
excellent.
back.
Let's go to commercial break.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. We were about to have a coolant leak at the engineering section, so
That is, I mean, it's cool.
it is now. Oh boy. Moving along to Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2, At Astra per Aspera. Well, so this is the measure of a man in Strange New Worlds. What does Strange New Worlds do in Measure of a Man?
Basically, yes.
You say hold on, Willie?
I did not.
I don't know why I said that. All right, so we start out with our boy Pike, and he's limping along on this planet where he can't breathe. This planet that I was very confused by this planet because this planet was, we learned later, this planet was brought into the Federation on a temporary basis, and like some of the people were genetically altered and some weren't. I'm like, how did they ever believe that anybody wasn't if they ever set foot on this planet? Because regular people can't breathe there. But
Are you sure that's the same planet as that?
yeah,
I thought that was
I
okay.
thought,
I
it
thought they
was.
called it the same Manus 2 or something.
Okay.
I thought it was. Maybe I'm wrong. It would make more sense if it's not. So we'll say that. And he's going because he's looking for a lawyer. And he goes and he says he can wait, but his oxygen runs out. And he's like, I could still wait. I'm very persistent. And so she agrees to see him, Nira. And she does not like Starfleet. She's not a fan.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No. But Pike puts on his best Boy Scout smile
Pike starts the episode cooking again, mind you. Or at some point in this episode, he's cooking again.
We are not there yet. Pike
we're
gets so
not.
pissed in this episode, he throws a fucking carrot. I'm like, whoa, Boy Scout, you better tone it down. We're trying to keep this G rated. Anyway, so he meets with a lawyer, and she lets him know she's familiar with Una's situation. And he's like, you've lost 10 cases. This could be lucky number 11. She's like, you are a piece of work, Pike. He's like, but you haven't said no yet. Each captain, like, I like all the captains. And I've given, I say different things. Like, Sisko's a badass. Picard is so careful and thoughtful. And, Kirk is brazen. I never thought I would say, I love this captain on Star Trek. He's so cute. So that's what I think about Pike. All the time, like, he's so cute. Oh, so Pike apparently talks her into it, but we don't know that because we are. I think then is when we cut to Una, and we see her flashback. Maybe I guess we started. The very first thing was the flashback, maybe, and we see her parents not wanting to take her to a doctor.
Yeah,
they'll find out she's Illyrian. And she's thinking about this, and she's sitting there in her cell. And Captain Pike's Bay is offering her a plea deal. 2 years probation no probation. You just get dishonorably discharged. Yeah.
No prison time.
It's like, so you just want to cover it up. This is the best we can do. And her ginger attorney is like, I think we should take the deal. She's like, no shit, you work for her, dumbass.
Yeah.
Which was nice. That's hilarious.
Shouldn't we sidebar this? And Captain Bay is like, yeah, you probably should. And she doesn't want to take the deal. And they're like, you could face 2 years of
minimum
something. Yeah. I thought it was a 2-year maximum. I thought it was up to 2 years. But
yeah.
Maybe that one. Well, they wound up after they jacked up the trumped up charges. It was like 10 20. Years or something. 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when they're talking about the deal they offer her is to avoid going to trial where she could get up to.
Yeah, those are the original charges, and it was only 2 years as maximum on that.
I see.
But then Nira comes in and she talks to her and she's a bitch to her. She's like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because I hate the fucking Federation. And it's like, I'm sorry. It's like, well, that don't mean shit to me. You're sorry, but you can pass. You didn't feel like standing up, but now you want to do something? It's like, I'm doing this to help Illyrians everywhere who can't pass. And it's like, whatever, just, I don't want to take the deal. So they turn it down, which pisses off Captain Bay. She goes to Pike when he's chopping carrots. And she sees him. It's like, Chris, I've never seen this side of you. You just threw a carrot. If Spock had been there, he'd have been like, I am sorry you had to witness that outburst. That's a great joke that comes in later. Anyway. Yeah. But she's like, yes. You should have taken the deal, because now the Jagoff is personally looking into it. My boss. So we're going to trial. We're doing the measure of a man now. We're all gonna sit at tables and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And right before we do, that's when they go in and they say that we're upping it to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're piling on sedition and all this other shit. And they set Nira up in Una's quarters. so that she could see the pictures of Una with all her friends, show that she's a person. And Lon comes in and is like, have you ever heard of Starfleet versus Wick? And she's like, I'm a fucking civil rights lawyer. No, I haven't heard of it. And I was like, all right, don't be a cunt. She's like, let me do some digging, see how they figured this out. 'Cause I think they might have gotten it illegally. And she heads out, and then Pike's back. I think we go to the mess hall. That's when we go to the mess hall. Captain Bay is like, look, I'm sorry. And Pike's still all mad at her. She talks to him, and then she puts him on the stand to show him that it wouldn't have been a good idea. And I'm going to be honest, I wanted to hate Captain Bay. I tried to. Oh, she acted this episode very well. Because, like, even though I wanted to dislike her, like, she portrayed the conflict between her duty and doing what was right. And, like, there were times you could see she was rooting for Una.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so too.
It was
as we get around to Measure of a Man, it felt very backwardsly familiar for me since I watched them in different order. But yeah, I mean, you could tell like she was digging it when Una and Nero were taking them to the cleaners. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of when Riker was like realized or thought he had Data, and he was like smiling, just thinking about winning, and he was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, and it's like, "Oh shit."
Ah, fuck.
Well, and just something that occurred to me is there are, the captains are entangled with one of the legal antagonists in both of these, and I totally missed that until we were just now talking. But Picard boned the judge back in the day, and Pike is with one of the prosecutors, so that's an interesting parallel. But anyway, sorry, moving on.
That is an interesting parallel. It's a good point, Warden.
Well, I try.
So they talk after they finish talking in the mess hall. We cut to Benga and Ortega talking, like looking at Spock.
Doing an improv bit.
Yeah. I am so very logical, but that is also logical. Would it be agreeable to see you for a game of Ketal or whatever the hell it is? I love the scene. And Benga's like, are you fucking with me? Like, you don't see the tension there? And she thinks he's joking. It's like, right. He's like, they hate each other. It's like, you're fucking with me. And Spock comes over. I apologize that you had to witness the outburst of all my father's former colleagues. Thought truly brings out the worst in me.
Yeah, Benga's like, told you.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, we've had. It seems like just like a rash of Vulcans who are total dicks lately. I don't know what that says about New Trek, but it there's a lot of yeah.
Well, the biggest dick of a Vulcan we've seen is the one on DS9.
Baseball,
so
yeah, the fucking baseball.
Oh, maybe that's
coach.
Maybe it's that's a good point. Yeah, but I mean that seems to be I don't know what that says.
And
but
they weren't exactly pleasant in a mock time or whatever it's called, Spock mock.
That's fair. I don't know. I guess I just don't remember the fact that that like Spock has been like one of the only tolerable ones.
Let me boil it down for you, Warden. It's always been there. You just didn't know me and Joe Bob and our cynicism. And so now that we have polluted your mind, now you're like, God damn, these guys are dicks.
Yeah, fair.
Oh, that they are.
That they are.
Maybe it just shows you how special the Vulcans are that aren't total cunts. Like, maybe that's what makes Spock so special. And because even Sarek could be a total dick at times.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's part of why he and Spock didn't get along.
Tuvok's pretty okay some of
Yeah.
the time. That's the
I mean,
best.
honestly, Saru's girlfriend isn't terrible, though.
No, but
He's
they've
on the
had a
terrible show.
yeah, but I'm assuming that they've mellowed out since they've remerged with the Romulans. That
Fair.
has to have sort of uh, evolved their society some.
Yeah.
So then we get one more La'an scene on the bridge. She asks Uhura to get all the personal logs. And Uhura's like, no, that would be wrong. I won't follow that order. Una's your mentor, but you're mine. And La'an's pissed. But she leaves. And I guess it's showing that still got to do things the right way.
Mhm.
And then we're to the trial, right? We get a Vulcan, a human, and a Tellarite.
Mhm.
Founding members of the Federation. I don't know why well, I do know why there's not an Andorian there. Because an Andorian would never make a fucking judge. That would not work out.
And
Anyway, they
Denobulans are also founders, right? But they have only a 4-panel is just seems implausible. So yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I guess they were a founding member. It seems like it always talks about the founding members of the Federation being the Vulcans, humans, Tellarites, and Andorians. The Denobulans kind of get forgotten, I feel like. Or maybe I
Mhm.
just forget about them. Possibly because they're a newer race than the others. Because were they around prior to Enterprise?
I think they were discussed. I don't know that they were featured heavily. I don't remember. I would have to look into it more than we have time for it, probably at the moment.
Yeah. So the trial starts, and we don't put Una on the stand. We're not planning on putting Una on the stand. Nira talks about how, yeah, it's legal, but so was slavery, so was apartheid, so was Elon Musk. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. And then they decide to put April on the stand, and Una's like, that's going to be great. And Nira fucking eviscerates him.
Eviscerates them. Yep.
Mhm.
And he's pissed. He goes to see Pike, and Pike pours him a glass of scotch. He's like, yeah, the lawyer was my idea. And April's like, the
Fuck
fuck,
you.
Chris? And walks out. And Pike just pours the glass into his own. He's like, I
Yep.
need a double. But we do, Pike's pissed that he's not going to be a character witness. But they do get La'an, Spock, and Binga. They all say wonderful things about her. They talk to La'an a little bit about her heritage as a Noonien Singh. And Nira also talks to her about how they make you feel like you're bad just because of your genetics. But really, you're not. They just make you look down at yourself. And I guess so La'an is a descendant of his after he got genetically modified. So she said she carries his augmentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was a little confused by that, but
I mean, I imagine it's a little diluted.
Well, I mean, what's the rule here? Like how
how diluted does it
how
need to be?
genetically engineered do you got to be? Is it like 1/8, 1/16 before it's
I,
okay to
I
serve?
I have no idea, and that's I think part of our discussion they're having about how arbitrary this is.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I guess the interesting thing that is kind of going on this is, and I want to get your guys' thoughts because Nira starts out in full on bulldog mode, like
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mhm.
just trying to attack the pillars of the Federation. She hates Starfleet. I guess I should say the pillars of Starfleet, maybe not the Federation, but. And as it goes on, she starts to soften some. And it could be argued, it could be interpreted one way that that's part of her plan. Could also be interpreted that she's actually softening a little bit on Starfleet as it goes on. But we get a lot of emotional talk, and then the Vulcan comes in and says, well, it's law. So,
None of this shit matters.
None of this shit matters. And, the other important thing was while Nira was talking to La'an, she asked her why she thought the evidence might be improperly obtained, and La'an's like, I said something in a personal log. And that's what got them to talking about La'an's genetic modifications, or the history of modification in her ancestors. She assures her that that is not possible. Personal logs seem like a bad idea. Like, if you're gonna, like, I wouldn't trust anybody. I don't know. They've always happened in Star Trek because they're good narrative devices, but
yeah,
I would never assume as a member of a quasi-military organization that the logs that I'm recording into the computer are going to be felt completely confidential. Anyway, this kind of gets Nira's gears turning. She decides to put Una on the stand and ask her questions about, why she did what she did, why she joined Starfleet. The Vulcan comes up, he makes his argument, and that's when Nero shifts gears and she says, will you read code whatever for me? The Asylum code. Captain Bay reads it. And they do this annoying thing where even though it was literally like 7 minutes ago, they do a flashback. If the person feels persecuted, I was persecuted, and they're fearing for their lives. I was afraid
I feared
for my life.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because while she's on the stand, Nira asks the very important question, who turned you in? And you're under oath. And Una's like, I did. Because I wanted to stop hiding. I want them to see me for me. I wanted them to accept me and blah, 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 blah. And so because she's done that, Nira can now argue that she has fulfilled all the criteria for asylum, because the third one is that you declare yourself and request it, and that Pike, just like April, has it within his jurisdiction to grant asylum. And so that is what the council decides to rule on, is the request for asylum, not necessarily the trial, not the grander implications of genetic engineering and allowing people into Starfleet. And so it ends up with Una beaming back up, thanking her friend. And then she says, if everybody's standing around here, who's flying the damn ship? Battle stations. And everybody leaves, and Pike is so cute. Gives her a hug and a little pat on the shoulder. Tells her, good to be back.
Hey, get your ass to the bridge.
The end. So how do you guys feel about it? Because I feel like there's a good bit to unpack.
Yeah.
Obviously, the recap doesn't do it justice.
I think, okay, my feeling on this episode is that I think it's very effective. I still don't like it quite as much as I like Measure of a Man, and we can get into more of that later. But I think they did. It is definitely in the canon of Star Trek courtroom, whatever. It is probably one of the better ones, for sure. If probably the second or third best. I think the talkie points and the point making was not obnoxious. It could have very easily have been obnoxious. If Discovery did this, I would probably have needed to throw up multiple times.
This would have been an unbearable episode of Discovery. if this had been Discovery,
Barnum
first of
whisper
all,
crying for 45 minutes.
All two judges would have been old white men, and Burnham would have whisper cried them into shitting their pants, then rubbed their face in their own shit, and only allowed it to be washed off with Michael Burnham's tears. It would have been brutal.
Yes,
I
but
thought that exact same thing, Warden.
So this is, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode of television, a good episode of Star Trek, the kind of one that I would watch again.
I almost felt like they were trying to relate it to real world
Oh no, they totally were.
things. I couldn't really
Oh no,
grasp
this is.
what it might be related to, but
Oh, you didn't?
Oh man.
The whole thing about being yourself and not having to hide who you are, that didn't resonate with you, or speak to you, and something about the current world we live in.
I'm just
Nothing at all?
kidding. Obviously, it was about people who secretly love Gilbert and Sullivan musicals.
I do love Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the people that this is referencing love Gilbert and Sullivan. I think that was intentional.
I love me a Patter song. So
So it's got a little bit of a don't ask, don't tell vibe. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there's a heavy LGBTQIA plus element.
Definitely, yeah. Because of course they can't address that head on, because one presumes we've finally figured it out by then. On that score, I don't actually have a problem with the way. I mean, it's interesting, and we can talk about it more when we talk about Measure of a Man. But this almost feels like a mirror episode for that, because if you look when you look at how they structured this episode, they were going full bore into the larger issue,
and then drilled it down
to basically getting her off on a technicality. I mean, there's more to it than that, but basically that's what it was. Whereas, and with Measure of a Man, it started very narrow and blew up into this larger philosophical question: is he, So I thought that was really interesting, and I don't know if they did that on purpose, but
I think they had to have done it on purpose, because in both cases it ended up with them basically saying, we don't want to settle this completely right now. Like,
right.
We're not going to say that that artificial life forms are, full life forms with souls and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we're ready to just completely say, yes, it's fine. No AI can be considered property. And in this one, they're like, we're not going to settle the genetic modification thing completely, but we recognize we need to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Well, and in a way they couldn't, which some people might think of as a failing, but I think actually it's kind of a great thing. There is canon after that comes chronologically after this episode, where Illyrians are still being treated like, or giving the short end of the stick, basically. So,
well, canonically, even up into DS9, you've got genetic modification is still
very, very with Bashir. So it's I mean, and it's kind of neat that. One sec. Good night. It's kind of neat that they don't try to artificially tie it up in a neat little bow and act like it's all resolved, because it can't be, and so that's nice.
But I'll be honest, from a social commentary standpoint, I like where they left it.
Yes.
And I was wondering if I'm curious as to how this was received within, the LGBTQIA plus community, because I could see a lot of people not being pleased with it not not going far enough.
Hmm.
I actually appreciated that because I mean, they didn't just say, "Oh no, it's just all
Yeah, but
Lyrians everywhere are fine." It was like,
yeah, but
"Hey,
at the end, but at the end, like they even said that they were like, well, it wasn't all the way there, but we got one step closer. You know,
It's a start.
well, but
Yes.
of course the activist is going to want it to go as far as possible." You know, this didn't say Starfleet was wrong. You know, it didn't say they were completely wrong. I mean, they said even in the end, there are good reasons for the rules that we have in place.
Hmm.
You know, again, if Discovery had done it, it would have been some ridiculous shit like Una would have identified as a transhuman, and we'd have spent the whole episode trying to argue that transhumans are real humans, uh, or some stupid shit like that. But this was like, no, we need to treat this carefully. Like we need to tread carefully, and we need to look at each case. And
Hmm.
I know, there may be idiots on each side screaming like, nope, it's got to be 100% all or nothing. And once again, Star Trek says, nope, you know what? We should have both sides talking to each other, and we should use our best judgment on a case by case basis. And like,
Right.
I absolutely applaud them for that because
Because that's how the law works.
that's how the law works. And that's how the law should work.
Hmm.
That's how society should work. So,
Things that are like world-changing Supreme Court cases are actually rare. Most of it's very small, very incremental, one case at a time sort of thing.
yeah,
So yeah, no, that's an excellent point.
personally, I like the fact that I take the stance that Nero was going in, full bore with an axe
Hmm.
to grind against Starfleet and changed. I don't think she was setting everything up right from the beginning because I kind of like that better. I kind of like this
Hmm.
idea that you're not going to get anywhere if you just go in with hate behind what you're doing and just wanting to just completely destroy the system and see yourself as a total victim and attack every part of the system. And it was when she kind of backed off of that and actually came at it with a smaller scope and willing
Hmm.
to consider individual areas,
Uh-huh.
that's when progress happened. Because she would have lost the case if she had just continued on the path that she was on.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, and
probably so.
I like what I mean. That's all great points. The thing that gives me some pause though is the whole thing with April, where yeah, it seems like and everybody reacted like she was a bull in the china shop, but um, I keep coming back to they didn't strike just her cross examination or anything. They struck his entire testimony from the record, and including the part that from the prosecutors that was you know at least it thought it kind of damaging, that the idea that he wouldn't
But
you
even
know
though they struck it from the record, they then referenced it
They did
multiple times.
reference it. Yeah,
Look,
that's
the
true.
procedural part of this is not so great. Like there's
Yeah.
like they're raising objections and nobody sustains them or overrules them. The judges are telling her to stop and she keeps going and nothing happens. Just sort of need to forget
Yeah, that
the
yeah.
procedural point. I'm more curious as to what the writers were thinking.
Mhm.
And I guess I'll say one other thing about it, you know, that again, if this were a Discovery episode, you couldn't just say, I want to watch this as a Star Trek episode and just enjoy it. Like
Mhm.
this, here's the thing. If you don't want to think about real world political uh, allegories and you just want to watch this as Una trying to get back on the ship, you can. You know, it's an
Mhm.
episode that's handled, it's written deftly enough that I really think that you could ignore the social message if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy to do.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, and the way they close things out with the whole and I don't remember it. I'm just reading it off the screen, so this is not impressive. But the Starfleet, it's 85-14. That it felt in the moment. I had a brief moment of oh god, that's very hand wavy. Really, this is what we're doing. But then I actually started looking some stuff up, and I mean, the Navy's got rules. Actually, not quite that in depth or that far reaching, but they have rules for how to accept asylum, and they're fairly, I wouldn't say liberal, but they're not as liberal as what Starfleet's offering. But I mean, basically, you can request asylum from a naval officer, and within certain rules, chain of command, that'll get honored.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once I'm like, okay, so that is a thing, and I could totally see that being to that extent in some place like Starfleet, where that's going to be a much bigger consideration than U.S. Navy, even though it's consideration for them, obviously. But um, so yeah, I had a knee jerk problem with it, but a little education fixed that. So.
This is one of the most pure Star Trek episodes we've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Pure in the sense of
Pure in the sense of it honors the spirit of what Star Trek has been at its best and could have taken place on just about any series up to this point.
Hmm.
You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
not the special effects budget for this episode was not a lot.
no, no. I mean, it was definitely a thinker episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was not there to entertain you so much as make you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Willie, what did you think? You haven't said as much.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, I hadn't seen Measure of a Man until I watched it after this, and so having gone back and seen that now, like this was I guess kind of similar to what I said about Picard. It was somewhat of a safe episode. It was kind of familiar territory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was tweaked enough that it didn't feel like you were just rewatching Measure of a
Right.
Man.
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, it's also been 30 years. So,
Yeah.
you know, we know
So
it, obviously. I mean, most Star Trek fans do. Had you not seen Measure of a Man? Measure
I
of
had
a
not.
Man?
I had not.
Oh, cool.
I do think that we as good as Strange New Worlds is relative to the other new Trek, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they still doubt the intelligence of their audience. So I do think that we didn't leave as much to context or subtext as we could have. You know,
No. No.
I do feel like they still kind of spelled it out for you exactly what they were trying to say.
Right.
Um, and that
I
part,
mean, Picard and Guinan are talking. And he literally goes, "You're
you
talking
mean it's
about
like
slavery."
slavery? Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. That's fair. Um,
And I
and
mean,
that would be my only criticism of the episode was it. It was kind of like you were talking about, like they went through the flashbacks, right? It's almost like
Yeah,
they didn't have to even specify them. Like it's like, all
no.
right, here's the 3 criteria for asylum.
Yeah,
You
and you
heard
could be
what
like,
she
"I remember
said.
that 5 minutes ago."
You know, like let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But in Measure of a Man, that was the exact same formula, right? All right, they need to be intelligent. Is he intelligent? Is he self-aware? And does he have a consciousness? You know,
Yep,
and but the difference was it was real time, right?
yep.
And he was basically leaning in on Maddox, you know, to get him to admit that in real time. Whereas this episode, they made all the admissions, and then she's like, "All right, now let's go check the boxes." You know,
Mhm.
um, I feel like Nira and Una's relationship was a little odd. It seems like it was. There still may be more to unpack there besides just the one went one way and one went the other. To me,
Mhm.
um,
Okay.
and maybe we will, maybe we won't, right?
Right.
Uh, but you know, I thought generally speaking, it was a good episode. I don't
Mhm.
know that it's an episode I would really be uh excited to watch again. Like there's plenty of episodes of Strange New World that I would watch again without hesitation if I was flipping through the channels. That's our litmus test, right?
Mhm.
I think if I saw this one, I would probably be like, "Oh yeah, this episode," and then there's a good chance I might just keep rolling.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a middle of the road Strange New Worlds episode. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't it wasn't spectacular.
It will be iconic just because of what it is.
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't personally my favorite, but I thought it was pretty well done.
The only, I mean, yeah, I mean, I hear everything you're saying. The only thing that I will quibble, well, not even quibble with, but maybe defend the episode, the writers a little bit is, yes, they do talk down to the audience and there is a bit of spelling things out for people, but I don't know. I think we've kind of mentioned it before. In some cases anymore, it's justified.
Hey, got that. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Again, I don't think they
Well,
spelled it out so much that you couldn't watch this and ignore the political subtext.
yeah, yeah. I guess all I would say is, and maybe I'm giving New Trek fans too much credit. You know, this is not NBC. Well, I guess kind of fucking is, but this is not like network TV on Friday night where you've got every swinging dick from an IQ of 70 up to 170 watching it, right? Most people who are going to seek out this show, Strange New Worlds, are probably going to be, you know, sci-fi nerds, you know, maybe, you know, above average intelligence. They're kind of nerdy themselves. Like they're kind of, you know, uh, into futuristic thinking and science fiction and theater of the mind stuff. I guess
That's
that's my
fair.
only point, you know.
That's fair.
That's a fair point, but at the same time, they're trying to branch out and capture the people that aren't in that demographic.
Yeah. You are technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
It's the only kind I ever am. Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera. And that ties in nicely with The Measure of a Man from
Yes.
Star Trek The Next Generation. Morden, tell us a little bit about this episode and why you chose it.
It is one of my favorites. It is one of the true quintessential classic episodes of Next Generation. Um, one of the gems from the first two seasons. Um, and that's actually that's in a way not saying much because the first two seasons are a bit of a train wreck, but it was truly standout. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like how they handle it. It is kind of what you said about Ad Astra, as far as it's Star Trek at its best, and as far as how they are handling things and how they are handling commentary. So, yeah. Um, at the risk of belaboring the unnecessary, especially since we've kind of touched on a lot of it. It is basically just one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, Willie, I was a little surprised to hear you had not seen it. So, I mean, do you want to give us your impression? What you thought of it?
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. They kind of Captain Shaw to Bruce Maddox at the beginning of the episode, right? I mean,
I
for
just kept
fuck's
looking
sake,
at
like,
him. I just kept looking at him and thinking, "Oh, my poor buddy, you're gonna turn into a Jordan Peterson looking motherfucker who gets brutally murdered by a future Borg queen."
see, and I kept thinking, I was thinking through it that I'm like, oh God, I forgot how much you a dick you
I
were. You
know,
really deserve to get murdered by your
yeah.
girlfriend.
I mean, he called him an it the whole time. He like wouldn't he
Yeah.
he wouldn't really even address Data, right? He would address the court or Picard,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of referring to him as being there. Um, so and like I said, you guys know how I love like a nefarious character for the sake of being nefarious, but you know, in a weird way, he even had his own redemption arc, right? At the end, he was like,
Mm-hmm.
he's magnificent, and that's the first time you've called him a he.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was good. I liked when I didn't exactly understand the procedural portion where Riker had to prosecute him. I'm not so sure I followed that, but Riker did what Riker did, and
Well, the
I
setup
mean,
was that they had just set up this
this
branch,
JAG
this
office.
JAG office, and she had not gotten her staff in yet. So it fell to the two most senior Starfleet officers to be the defense and the prosecution.
Okay. Um, it was weird seeing Picard act out a like a former love interest. But whatever, it was fine.
I
I
didn't
thought,
think it was fine. Oh, that was the thing that struck me the most rewatching it. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I forgot about this part.
Well, it was weird that
And
again
it did not age
procedurally.
well. There's like some casual misogyny there. I almost feel like the woman can't fucking be serious. She keeps talking about dinner and everything and like lording it over him when he comes to her for help. Like, goddamn, be
Yeah.
professional.
Well, when I say it was fine, I just mean like whatever. Like it. I didn't focus too much on it. Right. I guess there was enough else going on in the episode. I mean, of course, we had to tie it up with the bow and him ask her to dinner. After it was all over, which is unbelievably unprofessional, and
Uh-huh.
also probably again, you'll be disbarred from shit like that. But I thought Data did a fantastic job acting.
This is a good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
He
quintessential Data episode for sure.
did a great job there. They weren't well, I would say, besides Picard and Guinan, they weren't too heavy handed on what they were talking about. I mean it was clearly about what are his rights, and does he have an input in those rights, right? And then of course, like you said, we kinda, we're talking about slavery here. Um
But you make a good point. They were way more heavy-handed in terms of clearly identifying the opposing counsel as a total fucking dick. Not the counsel, but the
yeah.
opposing side. Whereas with Una, they made the prosecution much more sympathetic, with
Hmm.
the exception of Pasalk or
Yeah.
whatever his name was.
Yeah, he was
Mm-hmm.
a dick. But I liked where, Riker, he did his duty, right? It looked like he hit it out of the park, and then Picard was just Like I need a recess. You know, he was so downtrodden.
Mhm.
He's like I don't know. He goes Picard or Riker. You know, proved beyond the shadow of a doubt he's just a machine. You know, what
Mhm.
do I do from here? And then I thought the interaction between Data and Riker at the end was probably the best part of the episode, or to me was one of the best parts of the episode.
I really enjoyed that as well.
You know,
Mhm.
where he says like, you know, you wounded yourself in order to save me, and I won't forget that. You know,
Yep.
and I thought that was a really good way to end the episode. Um, and then, like I said, Maddox kind of getting turned around, and even how throughout it, you know, Data was not he was not malicious in any way. He even said, he goes, I don't feel like your experiment is advanced enough to reach this step. If you get there, I'll be here. You know,
Mhm.
he never actually said, you know, I'm not going to do it. He basically just said, I don't believe we're at a point yet for me to submit myself to this. And I thought that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but no, I mean,
Because
I I may have seen that episode before, but I hadn't seen it well enough that I remembered it. So it was
mm,
kind of like a new watch, because obviously I had no idea about the Picard and whatever that
mhm.
Ginger Broad's backstory was. Um, I remember
That
seeing
ginger
Bruce.
broad.
I there's some casual misogyny for you. Uh, I remembered Bruce Maddox's face such that I even like Googled the actor, trying to figure out who he was, because I was like, I've seen this guy before, but he hasn't been in anything, so I must have seen this episode. Um, but you know, anyway, no, I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was well done. One thing I appreciated about it was the Enterprise was just orbiting a space station this entire episode, right?
Mhm.
There was nothing flashy, nothing to entertain you, right? You just had to watch this episode and appreciate it. And like I said, I kind of felt the same way about Ad Aspa, etc. You know, there wasn't something, you couldn't just sit there and be entertained by it. You had to kind of watch it and pay attention to what you were watching and appreciate what you were watching versus glossing over for 50 minutes.
Yep. This is not J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. This is
No.
classic.
No, it is definitely not finale of Disco season 2 Star
Oh my
Trek.
God.
No.
Uh,
1000% less pew pew. Infinity percent less pew pew. Divide by 0. Star Trek: The Next Generation season 2 episode, I think it was 9. Measure of a Man.
mhm.
And that's not a penis joke. All right, well, let's rock and roll to Deep Space Nine, season 2. I'm sorry, season 6.
6 episode 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, hang on just one sec.
We lost him.
Oh no. Well, while we have a brief moment of dead air, there's actually
Oh,
activity in
motherfucker.
our live chat.
No, I'm here.
No.
I'm good. So, moving on. Well, seasons. Sorry, go ahead. Say what you're saying, Warden, about our live chat.
We actually have activity in our live chat. I mean, I just noticed. So I apologize to to Adam Brown, who was
Fuck that guy anyway.
very said long time first time Willie, your wife's wife only half recognizes Picard. You might need to trade her.
Oh man.
And also followed up with Elnor unceremoniously died off screen. The ship he was assigned to was destroyed.
We can only hope.
Yeah. We can only hope.
All right. Well, thank you, Warden, for the shout out. But now
Right.
let's go back to Deep Space Nine, the classic season 6 episode, Cocks and Holes. Willie, you'd never seen this, right?
Believe it or not, I had seen this episode.
Oh, you had.
I think this was on like a Dominion War primer that you had recommended to me in the past.
Okay.
But I had seen this episode.
Well, I picked this one. I'm sure Warden's seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Dominion is a fantastic addition to the Star Trek universe. Probably one of the best new uh, empires
Mm-hmm.
to be added since maybe the Klingons. The trifecta with the changelings, and then you got the sycophantic, untrustworthy Vorta, and then the fearsome Jem'Hadar. And this, of course, features two of those three. It makes for a good time. You've got some fun Garrick, Chief O'Brien, Noggs in this one, Bashir. I love the whole cast, and I actually really enjoy the scenes with Kira on DS9 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think?
Oh, I mean, yeah, this episode's amazing, and the first thing that comes to mind is it reminds me that I really need to freaking watch DS9 again, because the Dominion War is good shit.
It is.
It is such a deep episode. It's been a while since I've seen it, so there's bits and pieces that I forgot. I totally the stuff with Kira and Odo on DS9. I did not remember all that, and so the bit with the Vedic hanging herself was just like, damn.
That's incredibly powerful.
But the way that the DS9 talked about war and conflict and the dilemma of soldiers and used the Jem'Hadar very effectively for that. They almost remind, well, and it's funny because they are grown. They almost remind me of the clones from Star Wars. Good soldiers follow orders.
Obedience brings victory, and victory is life.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Avery Brooks is just amazing. Just the intensity he brings to everything. And I'm gonna get to be a little too much. But and then I mean, and Garrick is just the whole bit with the little scene with him and Nog, where he's like,
What are you doing?
And he's like,
Yeah.
And then when he gets captured, and
Nog's
he's
like-
like, I'm a member of the Cardassian Intelligence Agency, what used to be the Obsidian Order. Then why were you wearing this? I was hoping you would not ask that.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unfazed.
yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
idea
that was a
of
good episode.
the idea of soldiers who are, in this case, bred to unquestioningly follow orders, but in the real world, sometimes, almost brainwashed. I mean,
Mhm.
that has a negative connotation, but throughout history, we've seen it to where that really is what happened. Brainwashed to unquestioningly follow orders from commanders who really don't deserve that level of loyalty.
Mhm.
Because Kevin is a son of a bitch.
Yeah, total.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
total dick. The way he just came sauntering out at the end,
Oh god.
but
And you could
then
tell
he's like,
Cisco just wanted to fucking
blast him.
yeah.
And he's like,
Mhm.
if I just had 2 more vials, I would have butt fucked you all,
Mhm.
but I didn't, you know. So,
Um,
and then Cisco basically saying, "You don't have to do this," and Jim Hadar Commander's like, "Yes, we do. It's what we have to do." It's kind of like trying to reclaim Osgiliath. I mean,
yeah.
it was foolish, but they felt like they had to do it because they were told, and so they did it.
And the guys, like, on the
Mhm.
Federation side, you could see them not really wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just this idea of, like, "Why are you forcing me to do this?"
Yeah.
Um,
And then one of them did get killed for
one of
a
them did
totally
get killed.
unnecessary altercation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the final line is "form a burial detail," right?
Mhm.
Um, one of my favorite Cisco moments in this episode is where they're debating it, and he's like, "This is
Mhm.
not a vote.
Yeah.
I'm in fucking charge
Mhm.
here." Cisco is I love Cisco's character,
Mhm.
but I don't know if Cisco's a good guy.
No, he's
Like, I mean, if I say I don't know that he's a good guy.
he
Cisco's not a good guy.
he's
I mean, he's morally gray because he does some stuff that's not in line with behavior of other Starfleet officers.
he's certainly not squeaky clean.
He,
I don't
Well,
know that
wasn't that
he's
wasn't that in like the pilot? Wasn't that why he ended up out there? Because he was kind of a loose cannon.
I don't remember that.
I swear I remembered it being kind of like he was almost like you know um,
Well, when I say
ambivalent towards the posting.
when I
Because they
say
were.
morally gray, I don't mean loose cannon. I mean like maybe war criminal at
Oh.
times. Like, um, we'll get to some Cisco episodes where he. I'll put it this way: where he makes Worf question whether or not he's going too far. That's a pretty good canary in a coal mine. When Worf's like, this seems a
That's
little
true.
fucked up, sir."
Find him and kill him.
Yeah. Oh, uh, but his willingness to take that on and absolve, because that probably goes a long way to absolving his crew. Saying it's not a
Mhm.
look. This isn't on you. This is on me, and I say we're doing it, and it's war, and it's
Mhm.
us or them. And he did everything he could to talk the guy out of it.
Right.
And I thought it was, the Jemadar is like, I suspected.
Yeah. We're not idiots.
And it goes a long way towards humanizing the Jem'Hadar. It wasn't the first time they had done that, but they could have just been mindless beasts bred for combat. And I'm so glad that they have these type of episodes in there to
Mhm.
um, round their characters out a little bit. And goddamn, the Vorta, oof, all of them
Yeah.
pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah. They're all dicks.
Yes, they are.
Um,
And uh, you know, Kira is.
I
I mean, I
found.
love all the characters. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, going on to the Kira thing, like, um, obviously I missed a lot. I'd seen this episode, but I still missed a lot getting to this point where obviously the Federation had abandoned DS9. It was run by Cardassians now, I'm guessing, but the Bajorans were still there. When it hit her, like her whole thing, like she had been just a straight bitch about the Cardassians and everything early on in this season or early on in this show, right?
Mhm.
and then she just seemed like so. Uh, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. I mean, she called herself a collaborator, which was probably a pretty good way to describe it. Like, how did she get to that point? I'm guessing there's a lot of context, maybe a little bit that I missed, but I thought that was interesting, and then when Jake was in there, who is a fairly innocent character in this show, right? And they basically just say like, "Hey, look, piss off! Like we don't have to answer to you.
Mm-hmm.
We're fuck you." Um, I thought that was an interesting dynamic.
Well, it shows you the thing about Star Trek up until Deep Space Nine, certainly, and even really after Deep Space Nine, is usually if the characters were doing something with good intentions and what they thought was the right move, they usually were doing the right thing. And Deep Space Nine gave you a whole lot of situations where you think you're doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck. Like, I mean, Kira was ordered to not resist the Cardassians by Cisco because he didn't want to he didn't want to give them a reason to attack Bajor. Bajor was cut off. They weren't getting supplies, and then Kira realized that it was only going to be bad for Bajorans if she fought the Dominion. So she accepted this. She was doing what Cisco told her. She was trying to do what was best for the Bajorans, and then she realized, like, oh, oh, kind of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, kind of thing.
hmm
Um,
Like even she was even saying like these are just 400, administrators. They're just going to come. They're going to do the business, then they're going to leave.
yep.
And everybody was like, "This is the fucking peaceful takeover of Austria."
Hmm.
Like this is not okay. And or Czechoslovakia. I don't fucking remember anymore. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And that's kind of what it was. Like everybody saw it, except for her, you know. And I did not expect that was the. I didn't remember the demonstration. I remembered the crashing on the planet part of
Hmm.
this episode. Um, I did not remember the demonstration part of this episode, but I was like, "Oh shit!" Went balls deep on that one, didn't we?
The old Picard's mama trick.
Right. It's
Uh,
canon now.
All
Um,
right.
but yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Like I said, I had remembered the whole Jim Hadar being stranded on the planet. Um, the Vorta basically throwing his men out as cannon fodder to save his own skin, right? Um, nah, I thought it was a good episode, and then you also had a little bit. I thought it was interesting. I didn't really know what to make out of it when Bashir had to do surgery on the Vorta, and he's like, "Relax, they're not here to kill you. They just want to see what my insides look like." Like like that, like they've just been chomping at the teeth to lash back out against the Vorta, but they can't. They don't have an opportunity to do it, and so this was the closest thing to like killing one was, I guess, seeing one going through surgery. You know.
I'll tell you how I interpreted it. I interpreted it like they're almost like demigods. They're sort of elevated above the Jem'Hadar in
Mm-hmm.
this extremely rigidly structured. The founders are obviously they're gods, no question. They are living gods in this hierarchy. But then the Vorta are like their right hand, and they seem to be placed above the Jem'Hadar, and there's this almost, you know, natural. Well, there is a natural order as far as the Jem'Hadar are concerned. The Vorta command the Jem'Hadar. It is the way of things. And I think it was almost curiosity, like wanting to see, like, does a god bleed? Or are they so different from us on the inside? You know, that was how I interpreted it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I just thought it was an interesting tidbit to throw in there.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I think it's not wrong to interpret it either way or both ways at the same time. I mean, I think there might be a little bit of both of that in there. That the interest in also okay that he does bleed.
Yeah.
So if only
Because a lot of Jemadar
that
will have never seen that. Because I forget, they meet a Jemadar that's like extremely old at one point, and he's like 2.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
maybe even less than that. I mean, I think like the average lifespan of a Jemadar during the Dominion War is like from birth to death is like 3 weeks, 2 months, something like that.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it also was interesting. I mean, the Vorta obviously had quite the scheming brain, right? Like, I mean, he
Mhm.
thought that plan out. I mean, it was not a knee jerk reaction, right? I mean,
no, that
was a very calculated maneuver for him to do.
he's such a twat. I
Um,
understand.
Well,
No, you don't. But that's not important. What is important is that you obey. And he
mhm.
tells, he tells Garrick and Nog, he's like, I bet you've got a Starfleet engineer who can turn rocks into replicators. He'll do a lot better than a strung out Jim Madar jonesing for Ketracel White,
Mhm.
Absolutely right.
I mean, but isn't there like if I remember, and I can't remember which one it is, of course. But don't they also start humanizing the Vorta eventually, where they're just as caught in all of this as the Jem'Hadar in their own way, because they're basically their deceitfulness and assholery is baked in. I mean, they don't have a real choice in the matter either. Um,
Y- I don't I don't recall seeing an episode where the Vorta are made to look good.
I don't know that they're
Um,
making them look good, but it's at
I
least
mean, yeah, they're bred. I mean, there's episodes where like Wei Yun talks about like it comes up that he can barely see. Like they point out something not far away. He's like, I can't see that. He's like, they bred me for ears to listen, and a mouth to give their spread their gospel. They didn't think I needed good eyes. And so I mean, there's stuff like that peppered throughout, but they're such dicks that it's hard to find any redeeming characteristics with the Vorta that I
that's
recall. Now I don't remember every DS9 episode, so it's certainly possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember any, but I'm not terribly up to speed on the Dominion War portion of DS9.
So Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, rock and roll shows. Well, I think it was a good week. We'll be next. So
mhm.
next week we're of course going to do our Strange New Worlds and our Star Trek Picard. You guys good with a couple side episodes, classics?
Absolutely.
it's working fine so far.
All right.
I have no idea what it'll be.
I don't know either. We don't have to
Yeah.
spell it out this on this podcast, but we'll be back with
Mhm.
it. What was your favorite episode from these four?
Willie, you go first.
Measure of a Man.
Warden.
Same, but I want to give a very, very close honorable mention to Ad Astra. I thought it was actually I thought it was really good. But I also am willing to admit that it was probably meant to speak to me in particular. So not me personally, but so
Illyrian bastard.
might, yeah, So I might be giving it some bonus points, but yeah, no, but definitely Measure of a Man.
I'm gonna be contrarian and say Rocks and Shoals just because I fucking love that episode.
Oh yeah, no, that's entirely fair.
Well, we will be back next week with more Star Trek. Warden, make it so.
I would like the show to end.
All right, this is Biblio Warden, Joe Bob, and Mr. Willie signing off.